Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Welcome to our weekly town hall at the 412 Test Wing. Brigadier General Matt Higer, commander of the 412 Test Wing, here, and always a pleasure to be here with Chief Master Sergeant D. Ward-Swanigan as we broadcast to you live from the studios, the PA studios here at the Center of the Aerospace Testing Universe. Gosh, D, it's been a minute since we've had a typical town hall.
Right.
You know, so I think the last one we were in this building was last year.
Even. It was, yeah.
And since then, we've had two big events. So for town halls, last week I thought I thought it went all right. What did you think about last week's town hall?
I think it was perfect timing. I love to kick off a new year with a lot of firsts, and I think that the first all call of the year, that was perfect. We had a nice showing and we got a lot of good feedback, and so yeah, I'm always glad and happy to be around people like live and in person. That whole people person thing, you know?
Yes, I could not agree more. So for those of you that missed it last week, we broadcast live from the town hall, from the town hall. It was the town hall slot broadcasting live from the base theater, and it was a great example, like this broadcast, this slot, a great example of what the legacy of the pandemic is going to be, and us and you and all of us being agile and adaptive and looking for new ways to communicate, collaborate, and continue to keep the team and the family together. So yes, we've had all calls in the base theater for as long as I've been a member of the Edwards community. But before the pandemic, we weren't broadcasting much of anything, if anything. At the all call last Friday, we had, I'm guessing, probably 2/3 of the theater full.
Yeah.
You know, so you know that's 300-400 people. I don't know the exact size. I bet FSS will be able to text that number into us. But 2/3 full there in person, and that interaction live in person was great. It was good to see them and watch their faces respond. No, he's talking too much about that as people's eyes rolling back, or they would lean in when we talk about something cool. It was
I know.
great.
I think we probably should have let them pick which topic instead of me picking, because So,
There you
but
go.
anyway.
Yeah, vote of hands. So we promise we will take the feedback, and we're always, Chief and I are always striving to improve and be better. So thanks for that. But in addition to that, not only just did we record it and broadcast it, but there were also watch parties around the installation. So commanders had the discretion to have their team together in one location for the mandatory event, and that allows them to have more discussions either before or after events or sidebars, where they can collectively put together a question from the crowd into the all call. We had a few questions from the crowd there to end the time, and I believe there's between 12 and 15 questions that we had left over, and we will get to many of those today. Now, before we get to those questions, remember, you can, as always, text your questions in to area code 707-412-8922. You don't have to wait until we're live and on the air. You can text them in and we'll get to them at the next broadcast or in the next forum. If it's just a question you have to get to us and you leave your contact information at any time, we can, if you leave your contact information, we can get it back to you as well. 707-412-8922. So with that as an intro, and I'm glad we're here. We're actually you can't tell it because the green screen's the same, but we're actually in a new studio in the PA studios. So that's awesome. This is our first broadcast from that studio, first one back for the year. We are going to pull back something that is really important to me, and it's really fantastic that people are willingly volunteers to join us and tell a little bit about themselves as they have been nominated for our Warrior of the Week. So Dee, if you want to introduce our Warrior of the Week this week.
Yes, sir. So Miss Jerlinda Johnson, go by Joe, from the lodging office. She's the lodging manager over with FSS, and so she's going to tell us a little bit about herself to get us started.
Hey, happy Friday. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. My name is Jerlinda. Like I said, it's a combination of both my parents' names, like I was telling you guys both earlier today. I'm here from California City, California. Originally, I was from Inglewood, California. So I stayed there for a short time when I was younger, and then we moved here to California City when I was around 12 years old. 27 now, so I've been here for quite some time. So this is kind of like my stomping grounds now.
Okay, how long have you been with us here at the lodging office?
So going on 4 years now, so it'll be 4 years in March. I started out at the front desk as a guest service representative and then worked my way up. I became the front desk manager, and then I became the operations manager, and now I'm here as the lodging manager. So
That's so great. Well, I could. It's obvious as to why you're here. I'm looking at some of the things that you've been able to do in innovation terms, and taking us from the cathode ray tube CRT style TVs to the smart TV. Talk about an
Absolutely.
upgrade, right?
Absolutely.
And then you had something to do with getting Wi-Fi installed so that people can connect.
Absolutely. So we had a few hiccups in our Wi-Fi. A lot of students were always having issues connecting to Wi-Fi. So what I did was I coordinated with our internet team, and we got Wi-Fi boosters. So now they're not having any issues. Even if there's power outages, they don't have to worry about things like that. So as long as their computer is charged, they can use Wi-Fi.
I love it. I love somebody who's forward thinking and looking at ways to improve. It's always a continuous push to do continuous process improvement across the Air Force. And so I'm pretty sure you have your eyes on something else. What do you
Absolutely.
think's next in your list of things to try to get across the board?
So I think the biggest thing is focusing on the people. The employees are, number one in my heart, because I feel like, they're the ones that get things moving. So I think that, taking care of them and showing them like, hey, giving them the proper training to move ahead in their lives as well. So I
Awesome.
think that's the biggest thing.
Well, we
So
can start-
I'm just gonna, I'll say her name. Tell us about Diana.
Diana.
Yeah, and she is also a first, right?
Yes.
So tell us about that.
So last school year, a little backstory, I gave a scholarship to one of the students at my old high school. Little backstory on that is, me and my sister always talked about her going to college as well. And, there's a lot of times in 2019, we lost our mother. So what I did was I was like, I saw my sister, persevere through all those things. And, she didn't skip a beat. And I'm like, hey, you deserve to go to school and do what you want to do. So that's why I work towards, the things that I do so I can support her in that way. So I figured, hey, like, why don't we give back to those students that, are having hardships too, that people don't realize that, hey, just because things happen in your life, that doesn't mean that it should set you back.
Right.
So I offered a scholarship. First one was $2,000. This year is going to be $5,000 for the new school year.
Did I
So-
tell you I'm going to college this Friday or this fall?
Perfect. Let me know.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's really good. And
So yeah, that type of community engagement, community involvement is gigantic. And does everybody here do that? No, but I think you are amongst a really common group of folks that all have like minds and contributing back to the community.
Definitely.
So I have one more for you. I'll let if Chief has something else he wants to do, and then you get to ask us questions.
Sure.
So I'll let you think about that in the background. So you were a SoCal native. You moved here a while ago.
Yes.
And then so it's a two-part question. How did you find out that you could work on Edwards Air Force Base without wearing something like what Chief and I are wearing today? And then what's your advice to anybody else that's contemplating or considering joining us as a civilian airman?
So I started out, my mom actually worked here on the base at the flower shop. So I would help her out there and, kind of like getting to know people. And they're like, hey, there's plenty of opportunities out here. All you have to do is look around, open your eyes and look around. And I always thought like, maybe I need to, join the military, join the Air Force to, find a job here. And I learned after a while because, I started working at Burger King. That was my first job here on base. And I'm like, okay. So I was like, is this all that I have to offer? I'm just going to stay here at Burger King? And I was like, you know what? No, there's other options. Look around, talk to people. I think the biggest thing is really getting to know people, talking to them, telling them your story and hearing how they, got to where they are. So I think that's the biggest thing.
yeah, networking is huge. So
Absolutely.
networking at its finest.
Thanks for leaning in and joining the civilian ranks. For those of you that don't know, our lodging organization and the folks like Joe here and her entire team are part of the Force Support Squadron. And there are a couple squadrons on the base, FSS being one of the big ones, that are we hire people. You're interested? Great. Come talk to us.
Absolutely.
Lodging is one of those places. There's always spots available in the Child Development Center.
Absolutely.
And there are a couple other, I'll say, first-time government civilian employment opportunities that are available all across FSS. And I know the number's large because one of your front desk personnel now works for us in the protocol shop.
Yep.
So you show up, you try out government service, you try out the base for a little while. If you like it, you stay, and there's all kinds of opportunities that open
Absolutely.
up, to include going up within FSS, but also laterally to other places.
Absolutely.
And so thanks. I appreciate that, Joe.
Thank you.
Do you anything else you want to?
I was just curious as to how you find your scholarship recipients. Like, what's the process for that for you
So
all?
what I do is I coordinate with the schools. Normally, I just try to keep it within Mojave Unified School District. Hopefully, one day I'll branch that out even further. But what I do is I write out a complete proposal. I give it to the school administrator, and they basically let the students know their options for scholarships. And then they decide to write an essay, or it's just a brief story about themselves and their hardship. So they just explain it to me. Me and my sister both sit down together, and we kind of read through everything. And we actually sit and we talk to these students, the ones that write into us, and we go based off of those selections there.
Wow, that's pretty moving.
That's
Thank you
truly
for
amazing.
sharing.
And you said you initiated that because of the hardships you went through after the loss of your own mom, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I can't guarantee it, but I'm pretty sure she's extremely proud of what you two are doing and the way you're paying that forward.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So, if we can't answer it, we won't. If we don't know the answer, we're not gonna fake it. If we should know it, we'll do the classic. I do not know, ma'am, but I will find out. So what question do you have for us?
I think it's more of like a personal question for myself. Both of you guys are just amazing leaders. So is there any advice that you would give me as far as becoming a leader like you guys one day?
That's a really good question. I was just talking about leadership earlier today. I'm actually putting together a leadership talking point, brief speech of some sort here for the AFSA conference that's coming up in March. And so I was trying to figure out, if I was going to give leadership advice, what would that be? And I think the biggest thing that I'm finding within that is that leadership doesn't have a look. And everybody's qualified. Everybody's leading something in some way, shape, or form. And it's just a matter of what you add to that, how you make that unique to your own personality and what you believe in, what your values are, and then just running with that. And not worrying about looking like the other leaders that you've seen before, and just being true to what you think leadership should be based on how you live your life, and just go with that, right? And so I would say, if you haven't ever set out to do a leadership philosophy, because when I first got that question, I think I want to say I was a senior master sergeant, and someone asked me what my leadership philosophy was, and I was like, I don't have a leadership philosophy. So I started thinking about what that would be and trying to figure out, how is it that the greats roll those philosophies off so easily, and so it seems. And I found that I think that those individuals just know who they are,
Right.
and then they base it on that. And so I've been on a soapbox here lately about just knowing who you are,
Right.
and then building from that. And so that would be like just a broad answer to what I would offer for you in terms of leadership and striving to be a great one.
So full disclosure, folks, we didn't know that was the question she was going to ask. Therefore, Chief and I had no way to correlate our responses. What she said, right? You can't be a leader that isn't true to yourself.
Right.
So be 100% true to yourself. The other thing, especially for those of us that are big A airmen, whether you're wearing a uniform or whether you're wearing our uniform or whether you're wearing your uniform,
Right.
our service absolutely believes, and I am a product of it, Chief is a product of it, and a whole bunch of other folks are a product of this belief. Leadership can be learned, right? So if what you're really good at in leadership today isn't enough to be where you want to be in the future, our service believes, and we truly inculcate that and teach it and give you opportunities to do it, that you can add additional tools and you can add additional proficiency with those tools. And so just keep leaning forward. Got to be a little vulnerable along the way.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it is something that we truly believe can be taught and learned. So that's my thought on that. And it's awesome to see leaders like you in the organization.
Thank you.
Proud to serve with you too.
Thank
Happy
you
Friday.
for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, so while we're transitioning to our next guest, there's a lot of things that I want to highlight to the crowd in these, and we almost always run out of time. today is actually an ideal alignment, both to talk about what today is, but also to bridge off or ripple into our next topic. But today, every January 27th is designated by the United Nations General Assembly as International Holocaust Remembrance Day. And that is one of the remembrances that we have in our annual Department of the Air Force or Department of Defense, I can't remember what level the policy is at, in our remembrance and observance events throughout the year. And so this is a day, much like we have Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and that's a single day that we have in January, a day of service. But International Holocaust Remembrance Day is a remembrance day. It's certainly a solemn event and a solemn day. But since 2005, UN and member states have held commemoration ceremonies around the globe on the 27th of January to mark the anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz and to honor and this number just sends shivers down my spine every time I read it and say it, 6 million Jewish victims of the Holocaust. And then there's millions of other victims of that fascist regime as well. It's important to realize that in the spectrum of acceptance and intolerance, one end of that spectrum is genocide, and today is a day that we commit to never head in that direction and certainly never be there again as well. So it's a solemn commemoration, but it is also the fact that we are recognizing it and understanding the potential risks of humans and of society, and our commitment to never do that again. So big day, important day, and I'm glad that we get a chance to talk to you on that day, about that day. Now, as you recall, I said that we have a series of remembrance days and celebration months throughout the year. Here to talk to us about the next one that happens chronologically, we have a couple guests, and I'll let them introduce themselves, but they are here to talk to us about Black History Month. And there's a couple different names we've had for that over the years, but why don't you two ladies introduce yourself, and then we'll start talking about what you have planned over the course of that month's learning and educational activities.
Good afternoon, sir. Good after Edward's team. This is super cool. First, I'm Staff
Isn't it though? Yeah,
it is cool.
And they can put whatever airplane you want behind them. If you have a favorite, we can find one.
It would be really cool if it was a red tail.
A red?
Because of the
I bet. So there's a challenge. Can you guys find a red tail? Yeah, Crosby's on it. He's up for the challenge, and he's got until you're off the stage to do it. And that is awesome, by the way. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry,
I love it.
Thank you.
Those are my favorite World War II airmen, by the way.
Oh, I learned something new today. Well, I am Staff Sergeant Wright from the 412 Security Forces Squadron, and I am the committee lead chairman for the Black History Month observance.
And I am Linda Phillips-Bell, one of the SEPMs here on base, one of 7 SEPMs, and I'm just here to make sure that everyone gets celebrated as a SEPM here, and next month just happened to be Black History Month, so.
Yeah, so let me talk about a couple things there that Ms. Phillips-Bell talked about. So, I mentioned that throughout the year we have different observances in different months. That is all run out of the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Accessibility Office. Our lead there is Mr. James Daly, he goes by JD, and he has somebody that works with him and for him that is the overall facilitator, resource advisor, gets on the chief and my calendar, and then he finds volunteers. So Linda's one of those volunteers, and she actually gets, as part of her duties for the year, you are a special emphasis program manager. Did I get SEPM right?
Yes.
And it's an appendum to your personnel document or your core personnel document or your PRD, your I can't remember what PRD stands for, but I know what it means. Anyway, and then in that role, she helps facilitate anything with that lane of effort, and then the volunteer that is the lead for this month's observance is Sergeant Wright, to her right there. So that's how they interface with us. I have the advertisement, if we can call that up, Mac, that shows the celebrations. If we don't have it, we can certainly talk to it. But ladies, you want to tell us about? There it is. Perfect. The planned events, and then I'll hit a couple foot stomps there, and then I'll let Chief pipe in.
So for Black History Month, our committee got together and we decided on 3 specific events. Our theme for Edwards Air Force Base this year
You're okay. You're okay. Nobody's watching. Nobody's listening. Don't worry. It's just us. Just
Thank
having
you.
a conversation.
The theme this year is the image of African American through history, showing our resilience in innovation, arts, and athletics. So we chose 3 specific events. Our first one is going to be February 3rd, which is a volleyball tournament.
Yes.
I think volleyball is amazing and fun because you get to use the entire surroundings of the racquetball court as well as playing volleyball. So who doesn't enjoy that? As well as the 8th of February on innovation. Oh, look at that. Sorry.
I told you.
Squirrel.
Max
Score.
amazing. Yeah.
That's
yeah.
super cool. The innovation panel on the Takata 2 message, as well as in Black History Month, gathering like-minded innovators across the wing to come together and express Black excellence, which I think is an astronomical. Be able to sit down and talk and have a conversation on what we do in our mission, as well in the Black community. With that, on February 22nd, in the Base Theater is an art showcase. Sorry, I'm a super nerd when it comes to paint. So I thought it was going to be great community event to just have people come out and showcase their art, their talent, either it be spoken word or singing, dancing. We're having a choir come out. It's going to be an amazing event.
Where's the choir coming in from?
Palmdale
High school.
High School.
Really?
Sorry, yes.
Oh, nice.
Fantastic. So folks, one of my so I have a couple things that I'd like to foot stomp here. The events that the committee, and it's not just the SEPM and the lead, but there's an entire committee that's helping you two
Yes.
pull this off.
Yes.
Right. So first of all, if you are interested in participating and you haven't joined them yet, get a hold of the DEIAO, the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Accessibility Office, and say, hey, I want to volunteer to join or volunteer to help. And if it isn't Black History Month, it's something else you want to do, contact them and let them know, and they'll connect you with the lead. So that is still open and available, and I'm really sure that they wouldn't turn down volunteers for
Absolutely
any of the events, right? In addition to that, if you are interested in being Sergeant Wright a year from now, it's also the time for us to search out and pick out somebody that has the passion and the forethought and the vision to figure out what they want to do in the month of February of 2024. And then you can observe and listen and learn from the best this year as you watch what these events that have been set up to do and then bridge from that or build from that. So that's one item. The second one is there's a I think it's a misconception, Chief, and you tell me if you have a different assessment of it. I think there's a misconception that the events in demographic blah History Month are for people of demographic blah.
Right.
And that could not be more wrong, right? It is absolutely not the case. We're celebrating that part of our diversity and our background and our history. And anytime I can carve out time to go to these events, I learn. And you know what there isn't? There's not a white male fighter pilot general officer celebration month, right? So if I waited to go to one that I was a part of, I'd never go to one. But I have learned so much and gained such appreciation for folks that host and share their cultures and their backgrounds. And I've learned a ton. And so I encourage all of us to both participate and volunteer, but also to show up to at least one of those.
Sir, I think the Juneteenth celebration was a perfect example of what you're talking about. There was a diverse showing, and it was just, I mean, Sergeant Wright was there. I believe your husband was on the ones and twos.
Yes, ma'am.
DJ and the food line was like, I mean, way out there, and like just everybody showed up, whether they could stay or not long term. They showed up, made an appearance, and showed support, and it was just all backgrounds, all diverse, ethnicities, races, you name it.
Yes.
So
And if I could just say something, that is what the observations are for, to celebrate everybody. It doesn't matter where you come from or where you've been. We're here to celebrate each other because each and every one of us are special.
Yeah, there's a big so there's an understanding, but there's a lot of respect that you gain and learn and you share by trying to learn more about things. I'll be a little bit vulnerable here, right? I had a very heart-to-heart conversation, which I've had multiple times, with someone that's demographically quite different than me in the last 24 hours. And I asked that person, hey, here's a scenario that I'm kind of, I don't know how this could be perceived or could be what's the risk if I do this or if I say that? What do you think? And it was a kind of phrase that if I say it, it could be interpreted in way A, and that if that person had said it could be interpreted in a completely different way. And that conversation doesn't happen, and the real conversation doesn't happen between the two of us, and my learning and his learning don't happen if we don't have that rapport and that respect and that trust, and a little bit of vulnerability. And we boiled down to it because it kind of doesn't even matter what the phrase was. It wasn't vulgar. It wasn't anything. It was just the deliverer actually matters on what the message is. And his response was, if it's genuine, then it actually doesn't matter who delivers it, as long as it's a kind, thoughtful response and remark. And I thought that was a really big insight, and that helped. That bonded. You will get such moments as you go to these observances and these events, and you ask questions, and then afterwards you hang back and say, "Hey, Sergeant Wright, that really resonated with me. Can you tell me more about X, Y, and Z?" And you may learn something about the people that attend that aren't in that demographic too.
Especially when they have panels. Those are good. Like
Absolutely.
I've been to several LGBTQ, Black history, and it spans the whole gamut, right? And you really learn a lot.
You absolutely do. So pull up the slide for the dates again, folks. If you're a military member and you can carve off some duty and hit one of these, please do. If you are a government civilian, certainly need your supervisor's approval. But if you want to go to one of these, you want to go to an event every celebration month, you may do that as part of your duty, as an alternate duty location. Don't go to your supervisor and say that the wing commander told me to, but it is an authorized alternate duty location with your supervisor's approval always to do one of these.
And two of them are during lunch, so you can plan your lunch accordingly.
Absolutely. Bring your brown bag. So anything else you want to foot stomp, ladies? I'm excited for the month. Chief and I are trying to clear room on our calendars to make sure that we can attend at least one of those each.
I just want to, invite everybody out to come out and celebrate and learn and just be with us.
I just want to say that I'm immensely blessed to be able to have the opportunity first to sit in this position and create these events for the wing. And I really hope that my peers and my airmen, Big A airmen, and my civilian counterparts do come out and participate, because we finally get to do this. We're out of, as the commander said, the endemic of pandemic, the last town hall. We can finally be in person and commune with each other. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah. So again, I didn't coordinate talking points with Sergeant Wright either, which is a good thing, right? But Sergeant Wright, one of the things that I was going to announce, so thanks for teeing me up for it. The pandemic rules, as have flowed down for us, allow me, because we've had 2 consecutive weeks of low community transmission levels or low community levels in all 3 counties, 2 in a row, we can now move the installation from HBCon Bravo to HBCon Alpha. And so as of the stroke of midnight tonight, we're going to be back in HBCon Alpha. So the trend lines are going the right direction, and that gives me a lot of confidence that we are through this. I think what's going to be a seasonal holiday surge, and we can now get into normalizing for the spring and getting to know people, getting back in person and learning, and continue to crank on mission.
So does that mean you're going to show up for volleyball?
I wouldn't want to embarrass everybody else and dominate too bad, but maybe I'll bring my art.
Maybe you can do a poem at the spoken word showcase, the arts.
You guys can start taking bids,
Okay.
and then we'll donate. I tell you what, you guys start taking bids, and if I bite, we'll donate it to the scholarship fund. How's that?
Okay.
For Joe's the scholarship that Joe has.
Nice.
Ladies, anything else other than accepting our deepest gratitude for what you have both volunteered to do, and we will all be better for. Anything else you got for us?
No, sir.
No, sir. But
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah. So if you turn around and look, you won't see it on the wall there behind you. But isn't that cool? Mac found a red tail.
That's fine.
So
That is super cool.
Yeah, it is super cool. So for those of you that don't, and most airmen I'm sure are going to know what the significance of the red tail is. Sergeant Wright, would you tell them real quick?
I would say for the history of it, was one of the first Black regiments with air power. I'm really bad with war history.
That's
but
okay.
close.
Yeah. So the red tails were that paint scheme right there on that P-51 is the paint scheme that was flown by the Tuskegee Airmen in the European theater. And anytime you see a red-tailed P-51, that is painted in honor of the Tuskegee Airmen, who had an amazing kill ratio to the positive, and were just phenomenally successful in that combat front, like many other African Americans were in World War II, despite the fact that they knew when they came back to the United States after the war, they were not going to be treated as equals. And there's some interesting history there that I don't want to end on the downer there, but I do want to end on the up, that the Tuskegee Airmen are awesome. They're real legends, and they did amazing things for our planet, for Europe, for America, and their legacy lives on today. I love the Red Tails. I love the P-51. And I think you ladies know this, but the T-7A it's titled the Red Hawk, and their demonstrators are painted with a red tail in honor of the Tuskegee Airmen. Great. So it's pretty neat legacy. Ladies, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good weekend.
Yes, have a great weekend. Okay, Chief, we're about halfway through the hour allotted.
Yes, sir.
I've got a chart in front of me of the questions that came in last week at the town hall. But before we get to those, folks, I'd like to get to the ones that are live here, or at least near live. DJ, I see one up. We got one in. Is that it, or are there others in the queue?
We have 5.
5 in from the broadcast today. So, folks, if you got one, we'll take them live first, and then we'll go through the ones in the matrix from the town hall last week. So the question, can you talk about capacity? Can you talk about the current status of the CDC capacity? I think I know what the person that's asking is asking about. We have capacity, physical capacity, in the CDC building to house what we anticipate to be the demand signal for the preschool age dependents for our military members on base here. And that's the physical capacity, and there's a little bit more beyond that. Now, is there always the exact capacity available for if there's a surge in some age group? No, but we can generally reflow or repurpose some of the classrooms as long as the provider to child ratio is the same. And so generally speaking, the facility is large enough for that population demand. So that is CDC capacity, the facility. But often, Chief, and you know this very well, and this is bridges in, it's amazing how these things tie together, that bridges in very nicely with our Warrior of the Month. The limiting factor right now to our capacity at CDC is actually caregivers. And so if you are interested in employment, you either live on base or you'd like to work on base, or you like working with kids, CDC and the Force Support Squadron has all kinds of non-appropriated funds slots available, and you are encouraged and welcome to show up and apply. There's a training program, a screening process. You're a federal employee. There's all kinds of upgrade and promotion opportunities there, and we absolutely want to have you on the team. And if you enjoy kids and want to help the community in that regard, there are some interesting benefits that we can also potentially get to you as well. If I knew the exact status of all the benefits, I would say them right now. But if you're interested, ask, and we can get that to you. So, Chief, anything you want to pile on that question, or answer, or correct me to 100% on?
Not at all.
Okay. So to the asker of that question, if that is not what you were asking about, then let us know. Occasionally, what we hear about CDC is, when are you going to open it up to children of civilians? And that is a policy level fight that we're in. I will say we made some good progress today, I think, but it's going to be a while before we can physically expand the CDC to be big enough for a lot of our children of civilians. But I don't think that is something that is out of the realm of realistic. Right now, as you probably know, you can get in on a space available basis if you are not a military member. I expect that we are going to be able to expand or put additions onto the existing CDC facility to grow it to the size that it really needs to be, to make sure we have room for all the preschool age kids of all the people that work on the base and our Big A Airmen. That second growth part is still a bit out, but I think we have a good chance to get here. And that will be a big topic of discussion with Colonel Ammons, the Air Force Services Center commander, when she's out here next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So I hope we answered your question, and if not, please write in with the reattack. All right, next one. So
Never seen that one before.
I don't have an EV. Chief, last time I checked, your Volvo wasn't an EV.
I know I made a mistake there. I should have gotten a hybrid.
Yeah, so I have a hybrid, but it isn't an EV. So when you say superchargers, I'm not sure exactly what that is. However, EV chargers on base. Little bit of frustration here that we still don't have them, but we were on the very short list to get EV chargers installed. If anybody can picture this, on the row of parking spots on the east side of the road that goes in by Starbucks, and if you kept driving, you go between the BX and the commissary. So to the right side there as you drive in, that's where we have sited, I can't remember how many, but it was a handful or more EV chargers there. AFES decided to go with another installation, and that did not make Chief nor I pleased. We reattacked, and we think we're going to get in I'll say on the next round easily. And then their plan scuttled, and so they went back to go, do not collect $200, and they started over again. And in this round, we anticipate that we're going to be picked up as one of the demonstration bases, or as we would call it, a test base. Mm-hmm. If you ask me what timeline we're looking at for that, I don't have an answer, and if I gave you a date, it'd be a complete guess, so I'm not going to do that. We are aware that there's demand signal here, and the other thing that we have placed pretty squarely at the feet of AFES corporate is that you, AFES, need to either get EV chargers here installed and operational, or in short order, you need to say you're not going to do that so that we can partner through FSS in a public-private partnership and get them here and kind of get a sense or a feel for what the actual demand is here on the installation. California is trending that direction, absolutely. This is the state that says no more gas vehicles sold after sometime in 2030, I think, 2030 or 2035. Well, if that's the case, we got to start building infrastructure so people can have a place to get a top off on their vehicles while they're on the base. And there's all kinds of places that we could site them, main base and or at the express or things like that in support of that. But the nose under the tent, or the camel's nose under the tent, is going to be somewhere in the commissary and or BX parking lot. And when they're there, just like any other AFES thing, please use it. The more you use it, the more chance that we have of getting more. So hope that answers your question. Chief, I'm gonna let you handle this one.
You sure you want me to do it?
Go, Chief, and I'm gonna enjoy spectating.
Does Edwards count as remote and isolated? Rumor is that we are 1 mile outside the limit. The answer is absolutely yes. Edwards is remote and isolated. I think that is one of my lines that I say no less than 10 times a week. I have a huge binder on all the remote and isolated associated LIMFACs and challenges. And yes, that is kind of where General Higer spent most of our time. We talked about it at the all call, and we had on the list or the chart, the slide deck that was there, all the things that make being remote and isolated a little harder for some. And so we are absolutely included. There is no such thing as we are 1 mile outside of the limit. We've been remote and isolated for as long as I can recall. I don't know when that actually was determined, but it's never been that we weren't. So
yeah,
unless you know something I don't.
No, Chief, I don't. So one thing that would be super helpful to the person that asked that question, if you could give us the source of that information, rumors we're 1 mile outside, please let us know where you heard that. If it's on a social media post and we can continue to trace it to the source, maybe there's something behind that we can attack.
Maybe.
Yeah, no, we are absolutely AFMC's only remote and isolated installation.
I think it has something to do with the rumor that I heard even when I got here, that we moved the gate out so that we no longer qualified for.
Yeah, I can't confirm or deny that history because I actually don't know it, but I will tell you point blank. Well, here's fact, right? Chief and I were in a meeting literally this morning. Yes. With a member of the air staff that is writing remote and isolated policy on behalf of the Department of the Air Force, and also with the Air Force Services Center commander. And when she rattled, there are 12 installations that count for morale, welfare, and recreation funds as remote and isolated installations. And I can definitively and authoritatively tell you from that count of remote and isolated for MWR, we absolutely qualify, and we are getting that benefit in the MWR fund.
Right.
The reason we were on that was not just, hey, can we have better greens fees at the golf course, or can we have different plus-ups to our NAF pot? But was Chief and I believe strongly that there should be a broader set of benefits because we are remote and isolated. And so defining what do you mean when you say you are remote and isolated is part of that discussion, and then deciding what other policies or law would then apply to us is really the gist of that. I'm cautiously optimistic that we are going to have some significant movement on that in the next 6 to 10 months. And for things that we can do that are policy changes that would affect in a good manner remote and isolated folks and those that work and live here, I think those are going to be pretty quick to fall. If they require resources, it'll take a while to compete for those resources, but I think it was a huge step in the right direction.
Yes, sir.
And we had representatives on that Teams meeting that representing all the remote and isolated installations in AETC and 2 of the remote and isolated installations in Air Combat Command. And so the only CONUS MAGCOM that wasn't there that has remote and isolated was Air Force Global Strike Command, and Chief has been in contact with a couple command teams from that MAGCOM as well. And so I'm pretty optimistic.
Yes, sir. Same here.
So you gonna make me answer this one, Chief?
Yes.
All right.
You made me do the last one.
Yeah. So go ahead and show it. All right. Such a long history about the Palmdale Air Terminal. For those of you that have driven California 14, north or south, and have read the signs, you'll note that there's a sign that says Palmdale Air Terminal exit here, and then as you drive down, I can't remember what the avenue is, I think it's P, don't quote me on that, you'll see a sign that says Palmdale Air Terminal, and actually on the fence line on Air Force Plant 42, there's a building that used to be the air terminal. It has not been used since pre-9/11 days, and I know that because when I got a tour of that facility shortly after taking command in 2020, there were no TSA style things, and you could just walk up to the gates and all that kind of jazz. So that's how long it's been since we've had that terminal there, and it was very, very much small commuter service. My predecessor, Brigadier General John Higer, did a good rush towards, hey, let's see. Can you go back to the previous question there? Let's see if there's interest in any airline in generating service to Palmdale, and if so, then let's see if we can work with the Air Force to find some type of a joint use agreement to allow that airline to service. And then Palmdale, the city of Palmdale, is interested in building a new terminal on a different location at Plant 42. So American Airlines showed interest. Just so happens that our IMA in his day job may or may not work for a big airline that rhymes with American. And so, yes, they were interested in doing that. And then we went into let's build a joint use agreement and float that to the Air Force. We did with the city of Palmdale. The initial request for that joint use agreement was denied at the Air Staff. Why it was denied and who it was denied and all those reasons, we don't have the minutes to go through. I am working with those offices to try and get instead of a flat out no, could it be a yes if or a no but? And I think we're going to get the final answer for now, at least in the not too distant future. I think there's some opportunity there. I'm not going to bet on it, but I do think there's some real opportunity there. So, can I confirm or crush? I don't know. I can crush your hopes of having any airline service there in the next 2 to 3 years, maybe 5 years, for a couple reasons. One, they haven't even done groundbreaking on the facility, and they can't do groundbreaking on the facility until we have the agreements in place, and the agreements will take a minimum of a year or more, assuming we can address and mitigate the concerns that were the reasons it was crushed. I meet with the City of Palmdale leadership on a recurring basis, and this is something that we always talk about. And I also meet on their behalf with the leadership in the Department of the Air Force. So I don't know what else to tell you. Okay. Chief, back to you.
Is the test wing doing anything to protect airmen's time, General Brown's initiative? I'm not sure I understand the question. Protect it, as it sounds, maybe people aren't able to get to do airmen's time, or they're risk of it being taken away. I don't know where this question is going. So I will say that Airman's Time is expected. It should be happening. It is not something that the wing is driving. We do our own, the way that every organization, every unit should be doing theirs. And so looks like we got a little more information here. Additional duties and training. Do you mean that that's hindering the ability to do that
So
this time?
I guess my question to the questioner, so it's awesome that we have this, and you can text in your questions all the time. This is one of the things that we had the ability to dialogue last week, which was wonderful to have that. If you were in the audience, I would say, I hear your question, and my response back is, what do you mean by, is the test wing doing anything? What is it that you would like the installation leadership or the wing leadership to do to better enable or to reinforce what General Brown's expectations and commander's intent are there?
Sure.
Because candidly, the majority of the supporting effort and the decisions that would enable or quote unquote protect Airman's Time are going to happen at the unit commander level or your supervisor level. And I think that initiative from General Brown is a great opportunity for supervisors to talk to each other, for unit commanders to talk to each other. Hey, what are you doing? How are you doing? What successes are you having? What challenges are you having? And then also for, candidly, folks, feedback goes both ways. If you don't think that your work unit or your team is being provided the Airman's Time that is an expectation, then please have the professional courage to professionally but definitively highlight that to your immediate supervisor or your immediate commander. And I think that's an important dialogue. Very happy to engage in that dialogue, but that would be a dialogue that I would have with the front office group or with the other members of the top five, because I don't know that doing wing level or installation level policy is going to be as efficient. And that's really what General Brown's initiative, one of the keys of his initiative, is really driving at. It's not going to be efficient if I just declare this hour on this day every third Tuesday is Airman's Time, nobody can touch them, because that will work for many but not work for all, and the ones that it won't work for, that just takes away more of their Airman's Time at some other time. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, we need more information.
Yeah, if you want to dialogue on that, drop your name, an email, a phone number, something, and Chief, I'd be happy to touch base with you and do a little research and dialogue with you.
I will say that, to close it up, the intent was to make it flexible for organizations, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. So I would be curious to see what additional information we could get on that one. So thank you for the question.
Yeah, and oh, by the way, folks, this is fantastic. It's refreshing to have the questions. There's oftentimes we do push on here, not dialogue. So
there's questions because you're here. When I'm here, it's like, somebody help me.
Maybe you're just more entertaining, and they have to ask questions because I'm not when we're together.
They don't come in, is what I'm saying. So then I'm like, hey, is anybody in the studio interested in a joke, or like I'm trying to make up something?
If you yell in the forest, do you make a sound?
Right.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Okay. What's the next one, DJ?
That one's specifically for you.
About the same thing as I think of USC losing the Cotton Bowl. It's very disheartening. I can't believe it happened. And right. I tell you what. To whoever's asking that question, and it's probably Archie. What do you think? You think that's Colonel Manning or somebody else? Trying to make me a little taller than 5'8".
But it could be him, though.
So I used to give the Big Ten endless grief because it hasn't been 10 teams in the Big Ten for a very long time. And so if you're going to call yourself a Big Ten and then have 11, 12, or 13 people, then what the heck? And now my team, for at least football, is joining that same conference.
That looks like a Colonel Lombok question.
Maybe, yeah. Bor, is that you? In general, folks, what the questioner knows me well enough to know that I think college football is just an amazing spectator sport, and it's a fantastic thing to watch and enjoy. And so I am actually looking forward to the shakeup, because it isn't just USC and UCLA that are changing conferences next year. There's a larger shakeup there. I'm actually interested to see where we are going to be in the next 5 to 10 years. And at the risk of turning this into an ESPN show, I think we're kind of looking at maybe a de facto minor league or two. Now that you can do name, image, likeness as a college athlete. You know, the current Heisman Trophy winner, I don't know if you knew this, but from his NIL funds, he decided to fly his entire offensive line to the Heisman ceremony on a charter jet. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't have that kind of cash in college.
Right.
So anyway, interesting times, and maybe the playoff will get a little bit more robust and go in there. But not bad trolling, and I'll bite that one anytime.
We got another one. Any thoughts of reopening Jungle Zone for kids to have more indoor play options?
I'm gonna plead ignorance on Jungle Zone. If you
I'm
mean
not
that
sure what
at
that
the
one is.
bowling alley, can somebody give us a phone a friend help there?
Sounds like it was before my time.
And if FSS is listening or MSG is listening, you could potentially help us out there as well. So we'll table that one for now. If there's another one in real time, we'll take it. If not, we got plenty to get to from last week.
Any
DJ,
more?
you got any more?
There's one. Ooh.
Is it possible? I don't know. For civilians to conceal carry on base. The folks that have carry on base are law enforcement officers and those using LAOS credentialing. So if you have a specific questions about weapon carriage, weapon storage, weapon transportation, and you're not a defender on duty or an OSI agent or other federal law enforcement officer on duty, then I encourage you to contact the Security Forces Squadron. You can contact them through I don't know what number to give, but you should be able to look them up. You should be able to look them up and contact them. Lieutenant Colonel Josh Frizzell on email is one way to do that, and he can give you what would it take for you as a civilian to carry, period, let alone concealed carry on base. There are also interesting, and so for example, if you want to concealed carry to the base, what do you need to do with your weapon while you're on the base is also another interesting thing that he may be able to give you some options for. In general, the answer is overwhelmingly going to be no, and privately owned firearms on base are, to and from a place of storage and other things like that. This is a long discussion. My personally owned firearms are not on base. They're not even in the state of California, and so I'm not super proficient or fluent with those, but that's where I recommend you go, and absolutely Josh can ask or answer those questions. If it's something that's within my control and he says I don't recommend, but we can ask the boss, he can help put together that package and ask for me. Now I want to talk about if I were in an engagement with this person, I'd say why, right? And there's often a personal defense discussion to be had and to be made, and I understand and respect that position. But the other side of that same coin, and many defenders and especially Defense Forces commanders will talk to the other side of that coin. And the other side of that coin is if we have a horrible day where our defenders are engaging a suspect that does have a weapon, it needs to be very, very, very clear to Blue Forces that anybody else with the weapon that isn't Blue Forces is a red person, an adversary. A lot of third-party carriers on base become gray, and that's a super challenging scenario for our defenders. We have a lot of things to our advantage on the installation, and the defenders and their ability to take care of us all, especially in those dire circumstances, if they were to occur, gives me a lot of confidence. So I hope that answered the question, and if not, get a hold of Lieutenant Colonel Frizzell.
Whoa, here's a good one. There was talk about the American Red Cross having a permanent office on base so that people on base could donate throughout the month. Is it possible to revisit that? It would be amazing to have a place where people can donate on a regular basis and potentially have a place for platelets and other donations as well.
So now we're into the questions from the town hall, right, DJ? The leftovers? Okay, great. If you donate blood, thank you. If you haven't donated blood and you're eligible, please go to the next blood donation. They are generally, if not always, but they're generally at the Oasis Community Center. And if you are the person asking this questions, ask the American Red Cross what their interest or potential is. And if you are interested in volunteering or helping support that, or put together a lineup of donors to help do that, that American Red Cross organization would be very thankful and very willing to work with you, and so would all the benefactors of those life-saving donations. Here's the reality. The American Red Cross only has so many resources, and they have to allocate those resources to places where they know they're going to get good return on their time and good return on their investment. Generally speaking, that takes a very large population to have an ongoing and open place for donations. Is it possible? Absolutely, but that's something that the American Red Cross is going to have to lead on, and if you're interested in helping and donating, that would be phenomenal. And if you want to do that, and when you pull that off, you're welcome to come on this broadcast and tell everybody, hey, roll your sleeves up.
Word of the week.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So on that note, I heard this morning on the news that I think it's CDC is changing some blood donation requirements that have been in place for like 30 or 35 years. That open up whole new segments of our population to be able to donate blood that haven't been able to donate blood for a long time now. And so I think was a great announcement today that I heard, and it ties in nicely to this question. Right. Next. That's it.
Well, you can.
All right. So now we're going to read the chart here. So, so one of the questions that we got at the town hall was, I'm going to read the second one here, D, and you can find the one you want to talk to next. Would it be possible to keep the pharmacy open on medical group training days? I've read the response from the med group, but even without reading the response from the med group, I don't know who the person is that asked that question. And so if, for example, that's the day of the week or the specific day of the month, that's the only time you can get to the pharmacy for your recurring benefit there, the med group will work with you on an individual basis. Just contact the pharmacy. There are leaders there, and they are a service organization. However, if it's a convenience thing, and that's just the day that you prefer to have it open, and it is, it's just not as convenient for them to be open on that, I ask that you remember what they're doing on a training day. And what they're doing on a training day is they're training to be a more proficient, more lethal, more ready organization with higher quality and lower error rates and all those kinds of things. And so the trade as a community that we make to allow organizations like the Med Group to have training day and training slots is that they are better for all of us, not just for their own skills, on the times where they're not in a training day, in a training session. So I'll tell you that unfortunately I am becoming a more frequent user of the pharmacy, and I find their availability and the amount that they're open to be solid, especially when you look at the numbers and the manning that we have here. And another thing, I'll tell you what pharmacy's open on a training day, Chief.
What you mean? The kiosk?
The kiosk at Plant 42.
I was actually thinking, should we get one on the base so that Med Group doesn't have to?
Yeah, and so we have a test going on at Air Force Plant 42. It's a Scripps Center at Plant 42. If you are interested in using that and you live down in the Lancaster Palm area, it's even a shorter drive. They don't have the same formulary. They have a much smaller formulary in that Scripps. But if that's something you're interested in, ask the pharmacy where it is. And you'll note that as you call in your refills, the pharmacy will say, do you want to refill this at the main pharmacy or at the Scripps Center at Plant 42? That place, because it's automated, doesn't close for training. Mm-hmm. And so there is an option there as well. Mm-hmm. So little innovation in action. And I appreciate the question. All right. Chief, you got one you want to address or you want to get some thoughts to?
You might have the answer to this, and I don't know. I believe I was not in the last meeting, but the information on the cellular antenna going up next to the museum,
yes,
so that we can have service as we leave the base.
Is that one on the chart, or is that one that you heard somebody ask you?
It is, sir. It's way back here, though, page 6.
Okay, I'll turn to page 6. Yes. So as many of you know that are long-term Edwards folks, Edwards used to be out all 3 gates, have dead zones as you were driving off of main base, and even on main base at times, depending on who your cellular service provider was, there were places where it was just not reliable coverage. Since then, we've upped the number of antennas and coverage on main base for a couple reasons. One of them is that a lot of folks use duty phones for things other than just random phone calls, so that was one reason we upped it on main base. We put another tower out North Gate, so now as you're driving in and out North Gate, 100% coverage there. I don't drive out South Gate a lot, but I don't recall there being any gaps in coverage out South Gate, Lancaster Boulevard anymore. However, there is still the dead zone over Rosamond Dry Lake Bed in and out the West Gate. In an effort to fill that proverbial electromagnetic spectrum hole, we have a tower that went up just to the west of the existing museum and another tower that is either going up or will soon be going up out by the West Gate guard shack. And those two antenna poles are sited such that when we put cellular service on them, we'll have consistent coverage across the lake bed. However, the cellular service providers want to put 5G antennas there, which makes sense, right? If they're going to put up new antennas, you might as well put up 5G so you don't have to come back in a year or two and replace your 4G with your 5G antennas. And right now we are making sure, so like crossing our T's and dotting our I's, making sure that the 5G broadcast signal doesn't interfere with any of our telemetry or our microwave relays or other things that are part of our test infrastructure that are out there and over the base. We've got a couple tests that we've run. The data should be back in. The predictions were that there was not going to be any realistic interference, if any interference with what was there. But we needed data. I mean, we're test and evaluation data people, right? So we needed data to show that. Once we have that in hand, we'll offer it up to the cell service providers. And at that point, we anticipate they're going to rapidly install antennas at the top of those towers by the museum and by the gate. I'm thinking that's probably sometime in the next 3 to 6 months that we could give them the green light, assuming the data turns out to be as we hope it is or expect it is. But I'll tell you what, folks, we may do a live broadcast from the cellular backpack, not by the driver, but by somebody riding in the car showing you the cell phone signal as you drive in the West Gate. After that happens, that would actually be a pretty exciting event.
Yeah.
To be the first person to not get dropped or kicked off a phone call.
Going out or into the base is such a good time to make a call so that you don't have to do it when you get to the house, but to have to say, I may lose you.
I gotta
I'm gonna
go.
lose
I gotta
you.
go. You better hurry up.
Every time.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah.
Yeah, and then the other one and it is clearly an annoyance, right? These are first world problems, but I will often be listening to a podcast,
Yes.
driving in or driving out, and it won't have buffered enough. And it'll stop playing. I'm like,
The good part,
I
too.
forgot to download. Yeah. So yes, folks, I hope to deliver that. Comm Squadron is on that. Test engineering group who runs the range infrastructure here for us. They're the great data scientists and engineers making sure that we don't do any damage to the MRTFB. So can PA totally, so PA's telling us we can totally pull off the backpack in the car. That would be a pretty neat thing. Just make sure we have enough drivers to not violate the installation commander's rules on speeding and hands-free cellular use.
Speaking of which, I have a question here from the town hall about speeding. I know we harp on it, and we've been harping on it forever, but
It's been a
specifically
minute.
emphasizing it before the holiday and now after the holiday and the return. I have one here that suggests, well, it says, coming in before 6 a.m. is incredibly dangerous. People are driving way over, and they're driving so fast that I cannot get the license plate. Several times people have been mad that I'm going the speed limit, so then they finally go around, cut the person off, brake check, and then take off doing 20. Is there a way to enforce during the hours of 05 and 07 so that anyone that is not obeying can be addressed, I guess?
Yeah,
There's
so
a way to wrap that up.
yeah, so if you are listening to this broadcast now, you are not probably going to hear me say for the first time that the acceptable number of miles an hour over the posted speed limit on Edwards Air Force Base, not just inside the gates, but on the base, so inside the wall, the acceptable overage is 0, right? And a reminder that if you are documented as driving in excess of the speed limit by even 1 mile an hour, that is potential justification to remove or revoke your driving privileges on the base. Could we issue you a speeding ticket in any of those scenarios? Absolutely. Will the defenders do that? That's up to them. However, I think the bigger impact and hopefully the bigger deterrence and punishment will be when we have to, we used to have the number of DUIs this month signs I'm in the initial stages of trying to figure out what the signs look like for number of driving suspensions this month.
There we go.
And it's a reminder to everybody that no, the rules actually, we comply with the rules because that's excellence. And complying with the rule, even when you know you're not going to get caught or you think you're not going to get caught, that is integrity. And another thing that just is really amazing to me, I can't remember who it was, but it was one of our just Go Geek people here on the installation. They did some quick math, and they figured out that you are saving less than a minute by driving 10 to 15 miles an hour over the speed limit. And they didn't actually do the clock and drive fast. They actually, how far is it? And they did some quick math. And if you're driving 65 versus driving whatever, how many seconds do you save? And it's less than a minute. Folks, that's just not worth it. I mean, that's not service before self. That's a self before service. That's not polite. That's not compliance with rules. We need to be those rules compliant people. And oh, by the way, if you are driving inbound between 5 a.m. and 7 a.m., how long are you waiting in line?
Right.
I mean, you're waiting in line at least a minute, even if the gates are not backed up. So I think this questioner has an excellent point. We'll feed that back to security forces and see if they can put some random patrols out there. Good on you for driving the speed limit. So I commend everyone that I get a chance to for that I see driving the speed limit, and I give them a huge thumbs up because I got my cruise control set in my staff car or my personal vehicles precisely to the speed limit.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's all right.
I thought we were going to do the drone thing and like go out and report back via drone.
We have many ways to determine who's going above the speed limit, even if we can't figure out precisely what that is. But the best deterrent is for the crowd to start doing the right thing all the time. And so you driving the speed limit, thank you. If somebody next to you also happens to be driving the speed limit and you back up a few cars, well, then that's absolutely fine. And so thank you. We'll feed that to the defenders. If you have any other ideas, great. And I just for clarity, I'm not expecting anyone to do anything unsafe. If you can catch the license plate, or if you're carpooling and your carpool mate could potentially grab that and get it to the defenders, that'd be fantastic as well. And as a reminder, here's the carrot. Once the defenders tell me we have exceptionally good compliance with driving 65 in and out the West Gate, guess what the speed limit becomes?
70.
It becomes 70.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in everyone's best interest to drive 65 so that I have an opportunity to increase the speed limit. It might not be day and night, but I think we can safely get it there as long as I'm confident that everybody will actually drive 70, not 71 or more. All right, Captain Matisek is a great CAG chief, and he has reminded me that we're at time. We have a few more questions here to answer. We'll get to them in future town halls. If there's a direct answer that we can provide you to your responses from last town hall or last all call, and you want them, just let us know. Hey, that was my question, and I'd like an answer back because I'm making a decision or whatever. Let us know. And so I really appreciate the engagement. These are, I actually find these very enjoyable. Mm-hmm. Very different environment than we had last week, but still very worthwhile, very enjoyable. Thanks for the engagement. As a reminder, 1500 Pacific, this place, we may be broadcasting from different locations, but from where you're going to find us on the World Wide Web or in cyber, this is it, 1500 Pacific time, every duty day Friday. And so I'm glad you're here. Thanks for being here. And I have one little sign off, one little thing to commend public affairs in my sign off. But before I do, Chief, any last words for the week?
I would just say, have a great weekend. It's a new year. Figure out what you're doing. Make sure you know who you are and go out and raise the bar that you've already met. If you've met the bar, raise it. And yeah, just get after it this year.
Fantastic. Chief, as always, it's great to team with you. These broadcasts are no exception, and Chief is a great wingman. I'm privileged and pleased to have her on my command team, and I hope she can say the same thing
Absolutely,
back.
Sir.
Real quick, folks, what we all do is vitally important. It's vitally important to our Air Force. It's vitally important to our base. It's extremely important to our community. It's also extremely important to our nation and to her partners and allies. You have heard me say for the entire time I've been in this job that we need to compete. Examples of what our nation can do short of actual open hostilities when we compete, are actually happening boots on ground in Ukraine right now. And they are happening, I'll say, boats on wave tops in the South China Sea right now. And they're happening in the skies over places all around the world right now. That doesn't happen without all of us and without all of you with integrity, that are doing service before self, and that are refocusing and continuing to push the bar, as Chief just said, for excellence in everything you do all the time. I could not be more proud to serve with you. I enjoy supporting and working for you, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend and are safe. And with that, I'll sign off from the Center of the Aerospace Testing Universe. Be safe, everybody.